Eli Cade squinted against the morning glare, one hand resting on the grip of his revolver, the other shading his eyes as he watched someone, crawling along the dry rim of his property. The sun had already baked the earth into a brittle crust. Nothing moved at this hour but snakes and desperate folk. She was both. The figure collapsed by the fence post. Thin arms dragged through the dirt. A dress, or what was left of it, clung to her like torn paper. Sunburn blistered her shoulders. Her feet were bare, bleeding, caked with dust. Eli didn't move at first. He watched, silent. The wind rattled the mesquite. She lifted her head. "Please," her voice rasped like gravel. "Take me. I can cook. I can give you children too." Her face fell into the dirt. Eli didn't hesitate. He slung his rifle and strode to her, kneeling beside the stranger. Up close, she was young, but not fragile. Her hands were calloused, her arms corded with muscle. The kind of strength not taught but earned. He lifted her gently and carried her into the house. She didn't wake until dusk. The cabin smelled of tobacco, with smoke and black coffee. Nora blinked against the low lamp glow. Her lips were cracked. Her wrists were bandaged. She sat up too fast, gritting her teeth as pain lanced through her back. "You're safe," Eli said, sitting in the shadows. "Ain't nobody here but me and the wind." She didn't speak, just stared, wide-eyed, like a coyote cornered with no teeth left. "You said something about cooking and children." Eli sipped from a tin mug. "That mean you're running from a man? Or looking for one?" Still no answer. Then neither. He raised an eyebrow. She swung her legs over the edge of the cot. "I thought you might leave me there," she said quietly. "I don't leave things to die slow," Eli replied. She met his eyes. Something flickered. Not thanks, not yet. Just recognition of another lost soul who'd done their dying already, long ago. Next morning, the skillet hissed with bacon and cornmeal cakes. Eli entered the kitchen, surprised to see her upright. Her hair was tied back now. She found one of his old shirts and rolled the sleeves. The coffee was already brewed. "I said I can cook," she said. He nodded. "Saturday." Watched. The silence stretched long. Outside, the chickens rustled, the windmill creaked. Hollow Mesa never had much for noise. Only ghosts and wind. "You got a name?" he asked finally. She slid the plate in front of him. "Nora. Just Nora. Just Nora." Eli didn't press. He didn't believe her, but he didn't care. A person's real name ain't always the one they're born with. The town took notice. 3 days later, at the general store, old man Silas leaned in close. "She yours?" Eli set a sack of beans on the counter. "She's not property." Silas smirked. "Didn't mean nothing by it. Just folks talking. Some say she's a whore on the run. Others say worse." Eli's eyes locked with Silas. "Let him talk." Outside, Nora stood by the horses, brushing down Eli's chestnut mare with quiet ease. 2 ranch hands walked by, eyeing her with more curiosity than kindness. She met their stare, calm and unflinching. They looked away first. That night, Eli passed by her room and paused. A soft sound reached him, not sobbing, not quite. She was speaking, not English. The language was harsh, rhythmic, whispered like a prayer or a curse. Eli didn't understand a word, but the tone sliced deep. He moved on. The next morning, she didn't come to breakfast. Eli stepped outside, instinct prickling. The air was too still. Behind the barn, he found her kneeling in the dirt, digging with her bare hands. A small hole, maybe 6 inches deep. At the bottom, a pistol, rusted, broken. She didn't look up. "Wasn't sure if I buried it deep enough." Eli crouched. "That yours?" "Yes." "You know how to use it?" She looked at him then. Her eyes were stone. "I know how to use better." That evening, he found her soaking her feet in a basin by the fire, humming a tune he didn't recognize. The scars on her back caught the light. 3 long slashes, half-healed. Not from whips. From wire. "Barb, maybe." He said nothing. She looked up. "They're coming." Eli didn't ask who. He just nodded. "Let him," he said. The next day, the buzzards came back. And this time, they weren't circling her. They circled the town, because trouble was riding in, and it didn't wear a sheriff's badge. 4 men entered Hollow Mesa's only watering hole just past noon, all in dust-covered coats, foreign cut, heavy with stitched leather and bullet loops. Their accents were wrong. Too thick. Slavic. Eastern. The tallest of them, a pale, brutish man with a scar across his chin, stepped to the bar and tossed a silver coin. "We seek woman," he said, voice deep, guttural. "Young. Brown hair. Wounded. Might walk like ghost." The bartender didn't blink, just poured 2 fingers of rye and slid it forward. "I see a lot of ghosts," he muttered. The brute grinned. "This one, she's not ghost yet." He downed a glass in one swallow. Out at the ranch, Eli loaded shells into his Winchester. His hands moved slow, deliberate, but his mind ran fast. He'd seen the riders pass through the edge of town an hour ago. No ranch branding, no dust of cattle, no purpose but pursuit. And their eyes that knew killing. Not gunfighters. Soldiers. Wolves, not coyotes. Nora stepped in the barn doorway. "They're here," she said. "I heard them speak at the saloon. Serbian. Old dialect." Eli didn't look up. "You understand him?" "I used to speak worse." She pulled back her sleeve. The tattoo showed again. Faded letters, military code. "Not American." "You telling me you were a soldier?" he asked. "No," she said, kneeling to sharpen a blade. "I was a weapon." Sheriff Mallory leaned against the post outside his office, watching the foreign riders question shopkeepers. He spat into the dirt. "I don't like their smell." Beside him, Deputy Harlan frowned. "Should we intervene?" "Not yet. Let him circle their wagons." Mallory turned toward the general store. When men like that come looking, they usually already know where to go. That night, Eli sat by the fire, watching the flames lick the wood low and orange. Nora crouched nearby, wrapping a strip of cloth around her forearm. "Who is he?" Eli asked finally. She didn't answer. The one lead in them. She looked up. The fire danced in her eyes. "His name is Sokolov," she said. "He doesn't buy women. He breaks them, then sells what's left." Eli exhaled through his nose. "He think you're his?" He thought wrong. Outside the cabin, wind howled across the open plains. A shadow moved through the corral. Eli's rifle was in his hands before the hinge on the door could creak. He stepped out slow. A man stood by the fence, watching the house. Alone. Leather coat, shotgun at his side. "You Cade?" the man asked in thick accent. Eli didn't answer. "Boss wants girl. You give. We go. No more trouble." Eli raised a rifle a hair. "She's not mine to give." The man tilted his head. "Then you die with her." He turned, walked into the dark. "Why didn't you shoot him?" Nora asked. "'Cause he wanted me to," Eli said. Later that night, thunder cracked over the mesa. Not from the sky, but from the hills. Gunshots. Far, but too close. Nora was already at the window. "They're testing," she whispered. "Trying to scare us." Eli lit a lantern, pulled out an old map of the ridge. "They ain't here to scare," he said. "They're hunting. Question is, do we run?" She stared at him a long time. "I ran once. That's why they think they own me." At dawn, Nora rode into town alone, dressed in Eli's old coat and hat. Hair tucked, face smudged with ash. No one looked twice. She tied her horse near the freight yard and walked into the saloon. Inside, the air was heavy with cigar smoke and bad intentions. 3 of Sokolov's men sat near the stove, murmuring in their language. One played with a knife, spinning it against the table. Nora moved to the bar and waited. The bartender recognized her eyes a second too late. His jaw twitched. "You shouldn't be here." "Shoo." One of the men stood, sniffing the air. Nora reached into her coat, fingers curling around the grip of a blade. The man walked toward her, squinting. She turned, fast. The blade flashed. Blood splashed the floor. Another man lunged. She ducked, rolled, bolted out the swinging doors before the first shot split the wall behind her. She reached her horse as bullets screamed past. One grazed her shoulder. She gritted her teeth and kicked hard. Dust and fire behind her. She didn't stop riding till she saw Eli on the ridge. "You're bleeding," he said. "They know. You got any left in the tank?" She looked at him. "I've only just begun." That night, they didn't sleep. Eli oiled his rifle. Nora stacked crates by the window, eyes hard, movements sharp. "The war I fought in," she said suddenly, "it never ended. It just changed continents." Eli looked up. What war? She didn't answer, but he saw it now. The way she moved, the silence in her steps, the eyes that had seen things worse than men like Sokolov. You ain't no victim, he muttered. She met his gaze. No, I'm the last one they couldn't break. A coyote howled on the ridge, and somewhere down below, in the shadow of Hollow Mesa, Sokolov lit a cigar and smiled. He had her scent now, and like all monsters, he believed she'd come running back. The first shot cracked through the canyon like a bone snapping in God's fist. Eli dropped to one knee behind the boulder, glassing the ridge with his long sight. Dust kicked beside him as another round pinged off stone. 3 of them, one up high with a repeater, 2 creeping from the mesquite below. He breathed slow, steadied the barrel. 1 breath in, 1 breath out. Trigger break. The high shooter tumbled backward with a spray of red mist. From behind the barn, Nora's voice called low and steady. 2 coming around east. I see shadows. Eli shifted left, boots sliding in the gravel. Let him come, he muttered. They're walking into a coffin. Smoke curled from the ranch's chimney, not from cooking, from soaked hay, torches burning inside barrels. The thick black column disguised movement confused sight lines. Nora had planned it. Said it was a trick they used back in the Carpathian front. Burn the air, blind the men. She moved like a ghost through it, dragging a crate of dynamite caps toward the well. Every 10 feet, she laid a nail trap or buried a whiskey bottle rigged with gunpowder and a match trigger. In the barn shadow, Eli lit the fuse on a decoy. The second explosion sent 2 of Sokolov's scouts screaming backward, torn apart by shrapnel and fire. They came harder after that. 6 men rushed the fence line, yelling in 3 languages. One with a machete hacked through the chicken wire gate. Nora took him from the loft, the Henry rifle kicking once in her hands. The man's chest blew open like wet paper. Eli watched her work from a porch. Calm, controlled, not shaking. Damn woman shoots straighter than I do, he muttered, and racked another shell. By noon, the heat blistered the rocks. Flies gathered on the dead. The ranch smelled like sulfur and sweat. One of the men tried to crawl away, guts trailing behind him. Nora stepped over him, planted a boot on his back, and searched his coat. No maps, she called. But they've marked our water barrels. Eli's brow creased. Means they plan to wait. Nora nodded. They think time's on their side. Eli turned toward the canyon trail. They ain't met Dagger Ridge. They fell back as night came on, pulling bodies into heaps. The silence grew heavier, but it was a silence with teeth. Inside the cabin, Eli rolled up the rug. Beneath it, a metal box. Inside, a faded U.S. Marshal's badge, a cavalry jacket still bloodstained, and a long, nickel-plated revolver. Nora watched him from the doorway. You're a law, she asked. Once, he said. Then the law got sold. I left. He held up the badge. The metal caught the lantern light. Tonight, he said, I wear it again. By midnight, the siege closed in. Sokolov himself stood at the canyon mouth now, smoking, watching. Behind him, more men fanned out, 10, maybe more. Eli and Nora had thinned the herd, but not broken it. Nora sat cross-legged in the dirt, wrapping the last of the detonation cord. If they make it to the porch, she said, we detonate. Eli loaded his final rifle shell. If they make it to the porch, he said, we're already ghosts. The assault began without warning. Molotovs lit the barn in orange flame. Gunfire poured in from the south. Windows shattered. Wood splintered. Eli fired through smoke and sparks, dropping a man as he crossed the fence line. Nora moved through the fire, fast, low, cutting between crates and smoke plumes. Her knife flashed once, twice. A throat opened. Another gunman screamed before falling. From the ridge, Sokolov advanced. He didn't run. He strolled, confident. His men cleared the path. A thick revolver hung from his belt like a promise. Eli saw him, took aim, but a burst from the left pinned him behind the porch rail. I see him, Nora shouted. North Trail. He's coming. Hold him, Eli barked. He's mine. She moved to intercept. Sokolov saw her coming, raised his revolver. She ducked left, rolled into the dirt, came up behind a boulder. She fired, missed. He laughed. I gave you the world, he called, and you gave me scars. You gave me chains, she snapped and lit the match she'd been holding. Behind him, the detonation cords sparked to life. The blast knocked Sokolov from his feet. Dirt and fire rained across the ridge. One of his men flew backward, shredded. Nora pushed through the smoke, firing twice. One bullet caught Sokolov's leg. He dropped to a knee, growling. You think you can win? He spat, aiming wildly. From the ridge above, Eli's voice cut through. No, but I can end it. Sokolov turned. The last thing he saw was the glint of a marshal's badge. And then the bullet tore through his eye. The canyon fell silent. Smoke drifted. Ashes settled. Bodies didn't move. Nora stood over Sokolov, breathing hard, the firelight flickering in her eyes. Eli joined her. His shirt was torn, blood at the shoulder. That the last of them? He asked. She looked out across the field. No one left standing. He handed her the badge. You earned this more than I ever did. She didn't take it. I didn't fight for a badge, she said. I fought to stop running. Eli nodded. Well, we stopped him. They stood together on the smoking ridge, two ghosts who'd refused to die. And beneath them, Dagger Ridge remembered. The whiskey burned his throat as he swallowed, slow and steady. Eli Cade sat on the porch, boots resting on blood-stained boards, rifle across his lap. The barrel still smoked from the final shot. Flies buzzed over the bodies stacked beyond the gate. The wind carried the scent of gunpowder and burned wood. Nora limped through the yard, dragging the last corpse by the collar. She grunted, tossed it onto the heap, then stood for a long moment, hands on her hips, chest heaving. That's all of them, she said. Eli nodded and offered the bottle. She took it without a word, raised it to her lips, and drank like it was water from the spring. The sheriff arrived an hour later, coat half-buttoned, deputies in tow. Their horses slowed when they saw the wreckage, shattered fencing, burned-out barn, the bodies. A hawk circled overhead. Mallory dismounted, jaw clenched. Christ, he muttered. Eli didn't move, just tipped his hat. Marshal Cade, Mallory said, quiet. Not anymore, Eli replied. Could have used a heads-up. I didn't have time for a town meeting. Mallory stepped closer, boots crunching on spent shells. He stopped when he saw Nora. She was crouched beside the well, scrubbing blood from her hands. She did all this? The sheriff asked. We did, Eli said. Together. Deputy Harlan picked through the dead, stopping at Sokolov's broken body. These fellas weren't locals, he said. Mallory spit. Neither was the trouble. He turned to Eli. You gonna stay on? Or are you running again? Eli met his gaze. Depends. On what? He looked at Nora. She had stood, wiping her hands on her shirt, eyes locked on his. That evening, they buried the last body without ceremony. The sun sank low over Dagger Ridge, throwing long shadows across the field. Eli stood over the grave with his hat in hand. Nora beside him, arms crossed, wind tugging her hair loose. He'll be forgotten, she said. Eli shook his head. No one's ever forgotten. Just misremembered. She glanced at him. What about us? We ain't done yet. Later, with the moon high and silence settled deep, the distant clop of hooves echoed from the canyon pass. Eli stepped off the porch as a lone rider approached. Young, maybe 20, in a crisp blue coat, cavalry seal shining on his chest. He halted, dismounted, and saluted. Marshal Eli Cade? Was. The boy pulled a letter from his saddlebag. Wax seal. Government stamp. Governor sent me. Says you're requested back. Towns out west are burning. They need men with iron hands and straight eyes. Eli didn't take the letter. I got a ranch now. You sure? The rider asked. Word is you handled 20 men on your own. Eli turned to Nora. She stood with her arms crossed, shoulder bandaged, a fresh rifle slung across her back. He smiled. Didn't say I was alone. The rider waited a beat, then nodded. If you change your mind, ride north. They'll know your name. He turned and rode into the dark. Nora walked to Eli's side. You could go. I already did that part of my life, he said. You think they'll come again? They always come. She looked back at the cabin, the land scarred but still standing. We'll be ready. He offered her the bottle. She drank. The old storyteller rocked in his chair, the firelight dancing on his face. They say the ghosts of Dagger Ridge never left, he murmured. Say the woman who bled in the dust now rides beside a man who used to be death itself. The children leaned in closer. "What happened to him, Grandpa?" one boy asked. The old man chuckled, voice rough like gravel. "Some say they build a life. Others say they still fight, riding from town to town, righting wrongs and burying evil. All I know is," he raised his pipe to the sky, "the wind still carries her voice.